What are the most basic motions that we do? If you ask me, I would say it's a squat and it's hanging from our arms like we do, like monkey bars when we're kids. If you look at little kids, that's what they do. You see them, they squat right down to the floor, and when they're playing, they're hanging all the time. How often do you hang from anything? Probably never. When was the last time you did a squat? It's probably been a while. Being able to hang from your arms and doing a squat are all motions that we should be able to do. And if we can't do them, they're good goals to set for ourselves. They're kind of the foundation for all motions. When you hang from your arms, not only are you stretching your shoulders, but you're decompressing your neck. When you go down into a low squat, not only are you warming up your hips, but you're also decompressing your back and stretching your back. Most of us, what are we doing? We do most of our things right here. We're typing, we're reading. Very rarely do we ever get our arms above our head. Most injuries of the rotator cuffs happen when the arms are above their heads because we're not used to it. It puts our tendons in a very vulnerable place. Most of our back pain, 60%, actually comes from our hips, not from our back. So being able to do a squat, being able to bend over, being able to hang from our arms will get rid of 75% of injuries. And if you can do those things, it will also prevent those injuries. So let's talk about the squat first. Our hips are very tight muscles. They're very difficult to just go and stretch into a squat. It's more effective to actually isolate one hip at a time. Also, our hip joints are very complex. They have a big range of motion. So we need to focus on working the hip in every range of motion. So let me show you the motions, and then we can talk about variations. There's three things that we're going to do. We're going to do a full body stretch, focusing on the shoulders and the hips. Then we will do specifically just hip stretches, focusing on the squat. And then we will do single-legged squat, double-legged squat, and then we'll talk about shoulder hanging and the variations for that. So, before you do a squat, one of the things that we need to learn is how to do a hip hinge. The best way to bend over is actually to push the hips back. It's kind of our athletic pose. It's this pose, right? It keeps the spine nice and straight, and we hinge from the hip. And our glutes are involved because these are very strong muscles. What you often see when people bend over is this. They bend from the back. And now you're not using your big muscles, you're using your tiny spinal muscles. And if you do this for a long time, you're definitely going to start hurting yourself. So we want to build a hip hinge dynamic. So after our padding, after we did our full body contractions, we're going to be down at the ground. The transition looks like this. You step a little bit wider. You breathe in, coordinating your breath with your motion. Stretch out. Hip hinge, holding your breath. We're controlling our spine, pushing the hips back, and then twist as you exhale. Now from this position, we're going to reach up and put our shoulders above our head. And then for advanced, if you want, you can reach this way or you can reach this way. And then exhale, and then we come back up. So I'll do it kind of in a normal rhythm on this side. So you breathe in, hold, exhale, using your eyes and your neck, reach up. Breathe in, expanding the ribs. Hold. Exhale. Breathe in. Good shoulder and hip warm up. Let's talk about variations, because that's a pretty difficult exercise. One of the most simplest variations, you just need a chair. And all you do is you put your hands on your chair and you push your hips back so that your hands are above your head, palms facing down, and your hips are hinged back. And then either walk forward again, or if you want from this position, you can kind of just tilt the chair back. That's a very safe and controlled way to start that stretch. If that's difficult, all you can do is you just go here. Just do that. If that's easy and you want something a little bit more challenging, turn the chair over and use that as your point. So you'll breathe in, contract, and rather than going all the way down, just put your hand on the chair and twist. Then reaching forward, and then back up. Then breathing in this way. So that's how you do the variations of that stretch. So we want to build a squat, but we already talked about how tight and how strong the hip joints are. So it's better if we just start side to side. That will give you more tension and more stretch into the hip in a safer way. So I'll show you the full motion and then we can talk about the variations. Okay, so the full motion is to come down into this position. You can use your hands for balance. You can also put your hands on your knees if that's easier. Okay, so from this position, what we want to do is let's focus on this hip first. We want to stretch out the hip in its complete range of motion in the socket. So you come up, rotate the foot slightly out, try to sink down low as far as you can. Come up, rotate the foot out, again, sink down as far as you can. Then come back, and then come back. Everyone's hip's a little bit different, so some people might have their toes all the way forward, but for me, that's what's comfortable. So I'm sitting at the bottom range of my motion. Let's look at this other foot over here. If you rotate the foot up, we begin to get the hamstrings. If you rotate in, we get the abductors. And then if you really rotate, you start to get these small hip abductors up here. So we want to do this motion. We'll come to the other side, and I'll do it in my kind of natural speed. You come down, you just kind of bounce, filling out that hip socket. Then when you feel that you've warmed it up, you begin to focus on this one, pointing up, pointing forward, rotating in, stretching. Then we just go back and forth. This is actually quite difficult, and you use a lot of muscles when you do it. So this is a part of the warm-up where we actually start to build some strength. Let's go through some variations because that's actually can be very difficult. Let's get our friend the chair back. So we can do the same sort of thing, but just at a smaller distance with some support. So just going back and forth, side to side, loosening up those hips. Again, once you get over to one side, you can kind of hop that hip around and then focus on the other one. Toe up, toe down, rotate in, and twist. And then come to the other side. When that gets easy, you can either turn the chair around and go wider this way. You can also just put your hands on your knees and use them for support. Great. So now that we've worked out both hips, let's add this into a squat. Again, I'll show you the full motion and then we can talk about the variations. So, the full motion into a squat, we start our feet wide and we just go down as far as we can. We use our elbows to push our hands out. And notice my feet are kind of wide, that's fine. So you just go as wide as you can. And you breathe into the lower back and tuck the chin. And that decompresses the low back. It also builds pressure into your inguinal muscles and helps loosen them. Okay, we walk the toes in. We stand up and straighten the legs. And then we let the heels come in a little bit more. And now we're narrowing our squat. Now my hips are pretty wide, so I can't go much closer. But if you can go closer, come in and then go down. That's as far as I got. Let's do some variations on that. Here's the chair. Having a little bit of weight, holding a coffee can, having a chair, will give you some more balance. So we start out nice and wide. Let's do the easiest first. Just like we did before, we go back, and then we use the chair and we go down. Coming back up, pushing the hips back, and then rocking the chair back and coming back down. Using this chair for some weight, for some balance. Once we come into the bottom of our squat and we feel comfortable, bouncing is okay, because really what we're doing is not only are we stretching the muscles, but we're warming up the hip capsule. So you can bounce and actually you can start to walk, lifting up the feet, transferring the weight side to side. So if you can hang out for about a minute in a squat position every day, breathing, tucking, you'll really increase your lower back health and your hip health. So let's talk about the progression to being able to hang with your arms above your head. The first thing that we've done, I've shown you in the previous exercises, is just to use that chair and to get your hands above your head. This is with no weight pulling on your arms. It's just being able to get your hands above your head. The next progression that you want to do is you can find something slightly higher. So it could be a door jamb. And just grab the door jamb, and again, just pushing your hips back, letting your arms hang, getting some tension into the shoulders. Then from there, if you can do that safely, you can actually get a pull-up bar. You can either go to the gym or go to a Goodwill and buy those ones that hook up to the door frames, and just dropping your knees and beginning to hang. We want to hang for about 30 seconds, 3 times. There shouldn't be any pain. You can feel a stretch, and that's good, but you shouldn't feel pain. If you feel pain, we need to walk back and do one of those progression exercises where you're not adding a lot of tension hanging. But if you can hang, that's great. We want palms out, shoulder width apart, and we just want to do a passive hang. Breathing into our belly, breathing into our chest, feeling all the shoulder muscles relax. This creates traction between the acromion process and your shoulder joint and kind of pulls them out and gives it space so that you're comfortable to move over here over your head. If you can do a passive hang with no pain, the next thing we want to do is actually contract our scapulas. So let me show you what that looks like. If you're hanging overhead and the scapulas are up like this, what we actually want to do is pull them down. This is the scapula rotated up. This is the scapula rotated down. The downward position is what gives us structure. It puts our shoulders in a safe position to start doing pull-ups. What you will also notice is that the contraction motion actually lifts the chest. So what you happen a lot of times with shoulder pain and with neck pain is that we have the shoulders rotated forward. Let me see if I can show you. With my shoulders rotated forward, this is as far as I can raise my hand. Once I begin to lift my chest, now I can get my hands back up over my head. So the muscles that contract the shoulder blades down are also what gives you better posture, gets rid of your hump, and puts you in a better alignment. First, you need to just be able to passively hang. But then we want to build those muscles that will create a better posture, put the neck in a better alignment, and build better shoulder health.